Humanity's sudden departure from the celestial Senate shatters millennia of perfect diplomatic tradition. Galactic leaders scrambled to contain the fallout, but whispers of a bold new human-led alliance spread like wildfire. Dozens of frontier worlds, once suffocated by red tape, now look to outsiders for real solutions. One unassuming Senate official dares to see what the humans are building and discovers a shockingly efficient rescue network. Traditionalists call it anarchy, but crisis-ridden planets view it as salvation. Mid-level operatives wrestle with loyalty, cling to the Senate's ancient rules, or embrace urgent, high-impact action. As cosmic threats loom, bureaucracy, as usual, leaves entire civilizations vulnerable. Opposing forces in the Senate can't decide whether to condemn these swift interventions or secretly cooperate. The galaxy stands on the brink. Will it adapt to humanity's pragmatic ethos or cling to its stagnant old ways? One final choice looms, and every system must decide which future to claim. Stay with us if you want to know how the story ends, and don't forget to subscribe. On the outermost fringes of the Orionis spiral, a silent shift was brewing in halls that once brimmed with carefully orchestrated debates and impossibly high protocol. The Celestial Senate, revered across an entire quadrant for its centuries of orderly dispute resolution, had grown so risk-averse that actual progress was often overshadowed by subcommittee politics. Yet for all the majestic architecture and endless discussion, an undeniable truth was taking hold. Humans, the most recent members, had quietly closed their official delegation. One day they simply walked out, with no fanfare or press conference. Days later, the Senate's internal communication logs recorded an unusually short statement from Earth's representative. We've concluded that this forum meets more often than it accomplishes. Should you ever address real crises, do let us know. That was all. Hours after that message, the human seat stood vacant. No note on the official sign-in roster, no courtesy explanation about departure. The Senate's higher councils, so used to species begging for their time and resources, found themselves perplexed at this sudden, silent exit. Sure, humans were relatively new to faster-than-light travel and interstellar treaties, but they brought an unpredictable spark to negotiations, an energy that many found refreshing or, in the eyes of Senate conservatives, dangerously reckless. For them to simply opt out was unthinkable. Over the following weeks, rumors exploded across the relevant star clusters. Humans had forged their own ad hoc network of alliances. Humans were meddling in frontier conflicts outside Senate oversight. Humans might be developing advanced technologies previously withheld from them. The Senate tried to quell these rumors by forming a special investigation committee. Predictably, it took so long to finalize the membership that, by the time they convened, the rumors had turned into near certainties. They discovered that major shipping routes had been restructured to bypass Senate-approved transit gates, and more shocking still, multiple smaller civilizations in dire need were requesting direct assistance from Earth or human-led coalitions, ignoring the Senate's plotting processes. In the Senate's main legislative auditorium, an amphitheater ringed by slender pillars of sculpted crystal, each representing a founding species, tension soared during the crisis briefing. There, robed dignitaries of advanced starfaring civilizations demanded to know how one brash newcomer had managed to sow such confusion. High Quester Careerian spoke from the podium with forced calm, acknowledging that trade volumes with Earth's major corporations had soared for Outer Rim worlds. Seemingly, they have created an alternative to the Senate's official route licensing. This is not just a petty nuisance, Careerian said, voice echoing. It's an existential threat to our authority if they prove more efficient. One wonders if these humans even care about our well-established legislative tradition. The entire auditorium buzzed with half-suppressed anxiety. The word defection circulated in hushed tones, but no official dared speak it. The Senate had never seen a defection in centuries. Membership was considered the apex of civilized cooperation. For a minor race to reject that was borderline heresy. And for humans, with their short membership track record, to do so threatened to upend the entire notion of Senate prestige. If a species as newly admitted as Earth could walk away, ignoring centuries of carefully codified procedure, might others follow? A day later, an urgent request came in from the planet Trelassa, an old ally whose ecosystem had begun collapsing under extreme solar flares. Typically, Trelassa's petition would have triggered multiple committees to discuss environmental solutions. This time, however, Trelassa's ruling council also reached out beyond official channels. They invited human specialists rumored to be problem solvers, hoping to get real relief. The Senate leadership, proud yet alarmed, scheduled a top-level discussion. They debated issuing a formal censure against Trelassa for violating Senate protocol. But not all voices agreed. A small but bold faction insisted that perhaps the Senate itself should be more agile. The debate ended inconclusively, as so many had. Amid these swirling uncertainties, an unremarkable Senate functionary named Jova Relin found herself drawn into the drama. Relin, a mid-level liaison officer, had for years processed minor requests, scheduling delegates' speaking times, archiving transcripts, ensuring the correct usage of the Senate's official typeface. a famous symbol of how labyrinthine the body's procedures had become. On a routine day, she might review 200 pages of mundane policy memos. Suddenly, though, she began seeing frantic transmissions from colonized planets stuck in critical crises, each labeled urgent, each going unanswered for weeks. Their requests asked for rescue ships or resource shipments, but the Senate found reasons to stall. We must confirm the relevant subcommittee's budget, or we lack consensus on distribution. Meanwhile, rumors abounded that Earth's alliances were stepping in and providing swift assistance, forging direct trade or humanitarian deals in record time. This dissonance gnawed at Relin more each day. One afternoon, as she processed yet another urgent petition from the Rim worlds, she realized how many times the Senate had effectively done nothing. The final straw came when she read an encoded request from a distant system battered by a rogue asteroid cluster. "We have tried the official route for months," it said. No response. The human-led cooperatives at least reply. In a moment of uncharacteristic rebellion, Relin forwarded the petition to a known Earth-based contact, ignoring official protocols. Her heart raced as she did it, aware she might be risking her entire career. But the alternative, letting that system remain helpless, felt unconscionable. She told herself it was a one-time lapse. Within days, Relin saw evidence of real results. A short note arrived from the Rimworld system, praising the timely arrival of unregistered cargo ships bearing advanced barrier modules, which had shielded the planet from incoming asteroids. No sign of Senate involvement, the note concluded. Relin stared at that message with a mixture of relief and dread. She had acted outside the Senate's official channels, and it had worked. This was both exhilarating and terrifying. Her tension only grew when a cryptic personal invitation appeared in her secure console. It simply read, "If you truly wish to see how we get things done, come to Station Epsilon." Signed, Earth Liaison Officer Clark. Station Epsilon was not part of the Senate's recognized network, so traveling there would be a direct violation of the Regulated Transit Act. She should have declined. Instead, late that evening, she found herself stepping onto a discreet merchant vessel owned by an Earth-based shipping firm. Everyone from her colleagues to her family believed she was on extended administrative duties for a subcommittee. Another deception. The trip took 2 days in a cramped cargo hold loaded with high-tech contraband and pungent crates of coffee beans, a bizarre human commodity. The half-sleeping pilot, just as irreverent about flight protocols as Relin had heard humans were, hardly spoke, aside from a few jokes about how Earth's coffee was the best drug in the galaxy. By the time they arrived near a lightly charted star cluster, Relin's nerves were taut. She wondered if she had made a catastrophic mistake. Station Epsilon loomed into view, a ragtag structure lacking the symmetrical elegance of Senate stations. At first glance, it seemed like a half-finished metal skeleton, modules sprouting at odd angles. Yet the swirl of docking traffic told another story. Dozens of ships from varied species came and went, unloading cargo or ferrying technicians. They all moved with a sense of purpose, not the usual pomp. Human engineering vessels clustered around the station's outer ring, installing what looked like a new set of thrusters or stabilizers. The pilot teased that we're always building something new, then guided the craft into a pressurized hangar. The moment Relin disembarked, she saw more aliens in one corridor than she might see in a month at the Senate. Insectal forms working side by side with reptilian bipeds, amphibious species gliding past compartments adapted to watery environs. A wave of bustling synergy, not the quiet hush she associated with official diplomatic spaces. They wore no uniform except for sporadic patches or insignias that read Frontier Nexus, Earth Relief, or Rim Cooperative. She recognized none of them as official Senate organizations. Yet everyone seemed to coordinate smoothly. As she moved along the corridor, she found a short, smiling human wearing a jumpsuit. The name patch read, Officer Clark. The entire scene was so casual that Relin almost forgot to deliver her usual formal greeting, 8 symmetrical bows, mandatory for cross-species courtesy. Clark cut her off, offering only a firm handshake. "We're not big on elaborate greetings here. Let's skip to the part that matters." Relin's mouth twitched in confusion. Her training was useless in the face of such brevity. Clark ushered her through twisting corridors, eventually leading to a command deck that overlooked a massive operations center. From a vantage point, Relin saw dozens of staff monitoring screens. The center displayed a galaxy map covered in blinking signals. A tall figure with a modest grin explained that these signals indicated crises or pending resource shipments across star systems. "We route solutions in real time," said the figure. "No need for layered approvals. If someone has fuel and another world needs it, we facilitate. If one sector has an engineering crisis, a relevant team steps in." Relin recognized the voice. It was Harriet Pierce, a well-known human engineer who had once lobbied the Senate to accelerate star lane repairs, only to be stuck in committees. Pierce had apparently found a more direct path, here among these rebels. "And the Senate?" Relin ventured. "They see this station as unauthorized." Pierce smiled wryly. "We see them as slow. If we waited for them, Half these worlds would be in ruins by now. We coordinate, we adapt, we deliver. That's it. Relin spent hours exploring. She saw cargo holds where workers from multiple species packaged emergency rations for some plague-ridden colony. She glimpsed advanced AI labs where humans and others tested prototypes for terraforming. She saw small meeting rooms, but none of the pompous decorative touches or red tape that dominated Senate offices. Instead, she found real solutions hammered out in minutes. Planet X needs water units? Great. We have spares from Planet Y. System M had a cosmic wave event? Dispatch a specialized shield lane crew. No 12-page request form needed. The adrenaline-fueled efficiency was shocking. Relin realized that while the Senate debated the definition of emergency, these groups simply acted. For the first time, she understood why some species declared humans terrifying. It wasn't their weaponry or cunning alone, but their blatant disregard for the established labyrinth of interstellar rules. They went straight to results. She also realized how many non-human species had joined them. In a side lounge area, Relin overheard an amphibious delegate from the Manasai praising humans for responding to a famine on their homeworld. The Senate was still classifying it as a regional nutritional shortfall by the time Earth's cargo arrived. Another described how Earth's medics had contained a lethal pathogen before the Senate could finalize a safety committee's membership. It stung Relin's pride, but she couldn't deny the truth. The Senate's revered processes were failing real people. Eventually, Clark led Relin to a quiet observation deck near the station's apex. Beyond the transparent hull, swirling stars framed an improvised shipyard. Relin recognized the silhouette of a heavily modified Senate cruiser among the patchwork vessels. Captures your eye? Uh-huh. Clark asked. That was the SSV Radiant Pearl, donated by one of the older Senate-aligned worlds. They realized it was more valuable here than collecting dust in a space dock. Relin felt an odd pang. She recognized that cruiser name from Senate archives. It had once been a symbol of interstellar unity. Now it served outside official channels. For a moment, Relin struggled with an internal conflict. She had devoted her career to the Senate, believing wholeheartedly in the triumph of reasoned, methodical consensus. But faced with Station Epsilon's real-time solutions, she felt the Senate's proud tradition dwarfed by raw efficiency. Is there no structure here at all? Relin asked, half lost in thought. No rules for membership? No oversight? Oh, we have structure, Clark replied, just not your Senate's brand of it. We run on functional committees, small groups, each with a direct mission, minimal overhead. If a crisis arises, we spin up a mission team. If the crisis ends, the team disbands. People reform around new tasks. We rely on trust built from tangible help, not from posturing. And humans drive this entire network? Relin asked. We were the spark, Clark admitted, but it's bigger now. We prefer the term frontier collective. Earth has a seat among many equals. We're not the single authority. For any given crisis, the best-suited species or tech leads the operation, while the rest provide support. Some species are actually more advanced than humans in certain areas. But they found the Senate unyielding, so they turned here. Relin nodded slowly, a quiet sense of awe overtaking her. The labyrinth of the Senate, with its centuries of tradition, had ironically locked out the progressive edges of the galaxy. Freed from that labyrinth, these species, humans included, were forging a dynamic patchwork empire. She wondered if it might overshadow the Senate entirely. Did that risk chaos, though? The Senate's defenders always argued that unregulated alliances lead to exploitation or potential warfare. Yet so far, Relin saw mostly collaboration and resource sharing. Perhaps the real chaos lay in ignoring so many urgent pleas. As if reading her thoughts, Clark proposed Relin meet a group heading out to rescue a stricken colony. Come watch how we do it, they said. No Senate filibusters, no ceremonial preludes. Just real action. Relin found herself on a small landing platform, preparing to board a swift cargo frigate. The mission: bring seismic stabilizers to the quake-ravaged planet Arpheon 9. The Senate had recognized that planet's plight months ago, yet no official operation had materialized beyond pre-approval. Relin's prior job had been to schedule a hearing on Arpheon 9's resource allocation. The hearing was set for next year's second quarter, plenty of time for the colony to collapse. So here she was, outside Senate oversight, stepping onto a frigate with an improvised crew, 2 humans, including pilot Manny, who cracked jokes every time the engines roared, an Androsian engineer specialized in quake analytics, and a silent but keen-eyed Avellan meteorologist. You'll see, Manny boasted. We'll mod the planet's subsurface plates with a resonance dampener, something the Senate's been dithering about for decades. Then we'll be out in a day, leaving them stable for the next crisis. Maybe by the time we're done, your Senate will just start forming a subcommittee. Relin flushed but said nothing. Partly because Manny was probably right. The flight took hours through mostly uncharted routes. Manny bragged about how these backdoor slipstreams shaved days off official flight corridors. Sure, they're not Senate-approved, but we had them mapped by freelance explorers ages ago, he said. Better than waiting in line. Rellen's caution flared at the mention of unregulated travel, exposing ships to pirate threats or anomalies. But apparently, the Frontier Collective had found ways to handle those, too. Manny tapped a sensor array that automatically scanned for hazard pockets. We fix what's fixable, route around what's not. Rellen marveled at the can-do attitude that seemed so alien to the Senate's endless caution. Upon arrival at Arpheon 9, the devastation was obvious from orbit. Deep fault lines scarring the surface, dust plumes drifting across battered cities. The local caretaker government, exhausted and demoralized, greeted them with a mixture of disbelief and relief. We never expected help so soon. The Senate said we were on a waiting list. The caretaker official apologized, tears forming in their large eyes. Manny just shrugged. We're not the Senate. The rescue operation began at once, no fanfare or speeches, just immediate deployment of quake-dampening modules. The Androsian engineer worked with local laborers to embed them in fault lines, stabilizing the ground. Meanwhile, Manny and the Avellan meteorologist checked for aftershock patterns, distributing further gear. Rellen pitched in, hauling supplies, unsettled by the raw damage but heartened by how quickly relief was materializing. In a single day, the ground stabilization proceeded faster than any Senate blueprint would have allowed. Rellen recalled how the Senate's guidelines insisted on multi-phase environmental impact studies and verification by specialized committees, important, sure, but slow enough that an entire colony might not survive. Meanwhile, the Frontier Collective relied on smaller, direct review processes. The Androsian engineer used advanced quake simulation software to ensure the modules wouldn't cause more harm. That took a few hours, not months. Then they acted. Rellen recognized that it wasn't total anarchy. They had checks, but they had them with speed. By nightfall, the immediate crisis eased. Local authorities expressed gratitude. You might have saved tens of thousands of lives, said the caretaker official. Rellen realized how few times the Senate achieved such tangible success in so short a time frame. A single day. This recollection stung. But the caretaker's next words stung more. Truly, we owe it to the humans and their allies. We've been so sure the Senate had forgotten us. Rellen heard the quiet heartbreak in that statement. She wondered how many systems felt the same. Returning to Station Epsilon, Rellen found a message waiting in her comm console, an urgent summons from the Senate itself. Officer Jova Rellen, your prolonged absence and rumored fraternization with unauthorized Earth factions require immediate explanation, it read. She felt her heart sink. The Senate wanted an interrogation. She had, by all accounts, violated protocol on multiple levels. Yet a spark of defiance lingered in her chest. She had witnessed how quickly Earth's Frontier Collective averted disasters that the Senate let languish. Could she, in good conscience, remain silent? Over the next day, she wrestled with the decision. The station's inhabitants reassured her that the Senate doesn't scare us, but Rellen still believed in the Senate's founding ideals. She recognized the institution's potential if only it could shed some bureaucratic inertia. Perhaps she could testify, urging them to adapt. Clark offered her a seat on a small transport heading back to Senate space. They'll grill you, no doubt. But maybe you can open some eyes, Clark said. And if they decide to brand you a traitor, well, you've got friends here. The concept of having an escape plan from the Senate felt both comforting and shocking. Rellen parted ways with Manny, the Androsian engineer, and other station acquaintances, thanking them for a perspective that might reshape her entire worldview. Then she boarded the shuttle, mind swirling with half-formed arguments. She thought about Trelass's meltdown, Arpheon 9's quake, the many frontier worlds stuck in indefinite subcommittee limbo. She wondered if the Senate truly recognized how close it was to irrelevance. In a matter of months, Earth's approach had garnered wide loyalty. Maybe there's a path to synergy, Rellen muttered to herself. If the Senate would only reduce the red tape and meet them halfway. She guessed humans might, ironically, be open to partial cooperation. Despite their scorn, they never seemed to want the entire Senate dismantled. They just wanted to fix problems faster. Upon arriving at the Senate's capital station, an imposing labyrinth of high spires and crystalline corridors, she reported to the Commission for Protocol Enforcement. The stark contrast from Station Epsilon jarred her, polished floors so reflective you could see your own anxieties. Regal lights shining from organic swirl lamps, each shaped to evoke centuries of tradition. Rellen suddenly felt claustrophobic. She stood before a triad of senior officials, each wearing intricately embroidered robes. They demanded answers. Why had she left without official leave? Why had she corresponded with Earth's unauthorized channels? They threatened censure, demotion, even imprisonment. But something in Rellen had changed. With uncharacteristic boldness, she recounted the inefficiencies she'd seen, the petitions ignored, the looming crises. She described the dynamic solutions at Station Epsilon, how it handled emergencies in real time. We risk losing an entire generation of trust if we cannot adapt, she told them. Earth hasn't severed ties to sabotage us. They're bypassing us to help those we've neglected. She insisted the Senate must integrate or risk irrelevance. The Triad's reaction was harsh. Two officials dismissed her testimony as contaminated by alien propaganda. The third seemed quietly thoughtful. Ultimately, they declared Relin disloyal. They stripped her of rank, gave her a window for final remarks, and threatened permanent exile if she continued associating with Earth's network. News of Relin's hearing spread through the Senate's corridors. A few sympathetic staff whispered that she had spoken truths no one dared utter. Others labeled her a human collaborator. Meanwhile, rumors kept pouring in of entire star sectors forging direct pacts with Earth. Some Senate members panicked, calling for swift condemnation or even sanctions. Yet the threatened world saw Earth as their salvation. The Senate's fragile reputation wavered on a knife's edge. Days later, an emergency crisis overshadowed everything. A massive cosmic storm threatened to engulf the Helver system. Helver had petitioned for Senate support for months. Yet subcommittees had only recently begun, drafting a preliminary recommendation. Then a shockwave. Earth's Frontier Collective had apparently dispatched a specialized shield-laying flotilla. Helver's leadership posted public gratitude, praising the humans for immediate response. The galaxy witnessed, in real time, how the Senate's famed caution was overshadowed by a ragtag alliance that got results. The Senate's debates turned frantic. Some proposed going to Helvar with a last-minute official expedition. Others wanted to brand Helvar rebellious. But it was too late. The Helvari citizens had seen who delivered help. In a final session, the Senate assembled. The Grand Chamber bustled with tension. A portion of the delegates, including many younger species, demanded the Senate adopt a new emergency protocol that matched Earth's speed. Opponents insisted that such a measure endangered the integrity of centuries of tradition. Each side escalated rhetorical flourishes. Relin, effectively dismissed from her post, watched from a visitor's gallery. She listened to the same circular arguments: caution, tradition, bureaucracy. She recalled Arpheon 9's rescue, Trelass's meltdown, the entire approach that Earth championed. She recognized that, unless the Senate overcame its own inertia, it might well watch half the galaxy align under new leadership. Nothing was decided that day. The official record ended with an indefinite postponement, an echo of so many past deferrals. Relin left the chamber, walking with steady steps. She had tried to warn them. She had tried to prove that Earth wasn't the enemy, but a catalyst. The Senate, trapped by its own centuries of formality, might still catch up. Or it might disintegrate under the weight of species deserting. Meanwhile, Earth's Frontier Collective continued forging unstoppable momentum. Outside the building, Relin was met by a small group of like-minded staff. They whispered that an underground reform movement was forming, pushing for more direct action, less labyrinthine process. They asked if she would join them. Relin took a deep breath, remembering the unstoppable hum of Station Epsilon, the quake relief on Arpheon 9, the core reason she had joined the Senate in the first place, to help unify the galaxy. Perhaps unification required a new approach. Yes, she said, voice trembling but resolute. Count me in. That night, Relin left the Senate capital behind, gathering only the few possessions she cherished. She had no illusions about how this might end, but she felt no regrets. Her entire perspective had shifted. She believed in the founding ideals of the Senate, but now she saw that, ironically, Earth and its allies might be the ones truly upholding them. The next steps were uncharted. Perhaps the Senate would adapt. Perhaps it would crumble. Perhaps a new synergy would form between the old guard and the new wave. In any case, the humans had proven one thing. Real solutions come from acting on crises, not burying them in red tape. And the galaxy was paying attention. As Relin's shuttle soared into the starry void, she felt a strange, exhilarating hope. The story was far from over. The humans had left, but in leaving, they had ignited a transformation that none of the galaxy's ancient empires could halt. There might be struggle, confusion, even conflict ahead, but never again could civilizations simply lounge in the comfort of age-old procedure. The future beckoned with urgent possibility, and Relin intended to be part of it, forging alliances that accomplished more in a week than the Senate had in decades. And so, in the silent darkness of space, she let herself smile, thinking of the improbable synergy that began the moment humans, in their irreverent way, decided that centuries of tradition simply weren't enough.